In just a few hours, this place is going to be packed. Event organizers actually tell me they're out of space.
Do you feel any personal responsibility for the people who have infected and don't recover after you chose to reopen the state?
Do you feel responsible if you say things that people don't agree with or that things might harm somebody?
I feel responsible if I report inaccuracies, but that's not what we're talking about here.
Okay, well.
After the law, it was $24,000.
There were already people lined up. This thing doesn't even start until 11:45. All of Providence is shut in between East Broadway and Locust because a car is on its side. Do you not view the airstrike that killed Soleimani as an act of provocation from the United States?
No, I don't.
I've been checking the Uber app throughout the day, and the most drivers I've seen is 4. Right before the show started, I checked again, there were only 2. Sometimes even rolling down the windows. Take a look at this map of our area. It shows medical marijuana cultivation sites in red. Here in Kansas City, Joe Biden's supporters are having a good night.
Are we going to survive it? Are we going to survive COVID? And I'm not talking about the virus. I'm talking about the lack of business.
Dry cleaners are an essential business in Boone County, so Robinson's Cleaners doors never closed. But owner Kip Price says business tumbled. About how much would you say your business has dropped since this all started?
70% retail.
Here's the problem. Since more people are working from home, they're not opening up their closets and taking out professional clothes.
Everyone is sitting at home and they don't have pants on. They're not wearing those to work.
Nationwide, the personal and laundry services industry has lost more than 53% of its workers since February. Price says she hasn't had to lay off as many of her workers because other parts of her business have picked up.
Around the 23rd of March until the end of April, every day, 7 days a week, we cleaned every uniform, which is not typical of the contract.
Even with that increase of work to do, she's had to cut back on hours her stores are open. Caroline Dade, KOMU 8 News, Columbia.
Just keep shoveling stuff out, and at some point we'll get to the bottom.
For Wynn Harrison, daylight brought the start of a new chapter in life.
This is kind of rushing me into retirement. I think I'm finished. I think, 41 years, and I think we're finished.
Last night, the business he built from the ground up went up in flames. But Harrison says today's emotions are complicated. Before the fire, he wasn't sure how he was going to sell everything in order to fully retire. So today...
Almost a relief. Almost. But it's still, like literally 41 years up in smoke. Just like that.
Jennifer Slayton lives next door to Harrison's business. She saw the fire from her kitchen window, called 911, and took a picture.
The neighbor called and said that there were fire trucks in front of my building.
For Slayton, fear of the fire turned to relief. The fire didn't spread. Her building was spared.
One corner of the building kind of got singed a little bit, but, the fire department said it was safe.
33 firefighters tried to save Harrison's business.
And all we could do is watch.
Today, the start of a long cleanup process, made easier by the help of friends.
Made me tearful. Yeah, it's nice to have friends. It really is. Good friends are hard to come by. And I seem to have a few.
In Jefferson City, Caroline Dade, KOMU 8 News. In Saline County, COVID-19 is the only thing the health department is focusing on.
But I have everybody hands on deck with COVID-19 because we don't have a choice at this point.
Tara Brewer is the county health department administrator. She says once the county saw its first positive test, the numbers started to rise quickly. The first 2 cases were confirmed on April 1st. A week later, there were 16 positive cases, and as of the most recent count Tuesday afternoon, that number had more than doubled to 38. Lisa Thomas is a nurse at the county health department. She says this concentration of cases wasn't unexpected, and an official at the Fitzgibbon Hospital told the health department the county could be a hotspot for the virus.
And we have a few big industries, and so people are concentrated in those spots and they work closely together, and it's a difficult situation.
Elizabeth Fraking is another nurse with the health department.
Don't be afraid of the people we know about, because we know about them. We have been quarantined.
She says social distancing is key because the people most likely to spread the virus are those who don't have any symptoms.
And just because they don't have symptoms, that doesn't mean that they aren't contagious and they're giving it to other people.
Caroline Dade, KOMU 8 News, Marshall. Last Friday, Missouri Alcohol and Tobacco Control posted this release. It says the agency hasn't received enough information from the federal government to enforce the higher buying age. When I talked to the FDA, a spokeswoman said it doesn't matter. The law now says you have to be 21. Businesses I talked to are confused by all this and say it's left them in a state of limbo.
Thank you. Have a good one. Thank you.
Joshua Lee works at Up and Smoke in Holt Summit. He says he's confused because of conflicting messages from the federal government and the state of Missouri. On December 20th, President Trump signed a bill raising the buying age for tobacco to 21. A spokesperson for the Missouri Alcohol and Tobacco Control says the agency hasn't gotten clear communication from the federal government. He says ATC undercover operations will enforce state law. This means they'll only focus on businesses selling tobacco to people younger than 18, not 21. Lee says his store is following that lead.
We've decided to stay with 18 and up for tobacco and e-cigarettes until we can get clear directives from basically everybody involved.
When I talked to an FDA spokeswoman this morning, she was emphatic the higher buying age is already in effect.
It is now illegal to sell to anyone under 21.
But the law isn't crystal clear for all stores. I called a Fast Lane convenience store today to see what they're doing. Has your store changed its age limits for selling tobacco products?
No, we have not.
So you'll still sell them to someone who's 18?
Correct.
Okay, and was that a policy of just your store, or is that a corporate decision?
It's a corporate policy.
I reached out to Warrenton Oil, the corporate owner of the store, but I haven't heard back. Dollar General stores, including those in Missouri, now require anyone buying tobacco to be 21. Lee says the time since the FDA's announcement has been chaotic.
From the federal government to its own agencies, from the agencies to us, the businesses, from us to the consumers, there's so much confusion that could have all been solved if there had just been a little bit of communication before this stuff was implemented.
The FDA tweeted saying it will put out an official update to its rules within 180 days. That's not until the middle of June. The ATC spokesman I talked to says if stores are concerned about legal liabilities, they should talk to a lawyer. Here in Kansas City, Joe Biden's supporters are having a good night. NBC News waited a little bit and didn't call the race for him until about 20 minutes after polls closed. But here at his watch party, people were excited. Now, it was a small group here, only about 25 people, but they say they're excited for what's ahead on the campaign trail. After winning South Carolina and a majority of states on Super Tuesday last week, Biden supporters see tonight's victories as more steps forward for the campaign. State Representative Jalen Anderson says Biden's candidacy isn't dead like some people thought it was a few weeks ago. He says there's momentum building and the campaign is thriving.
You know, they said this campaign just might be over a few weeks ago, but when South Carolina gave this country a choice, it gave it in a strong way. And now Missouri has done the same. So let's keep going, let's keep fighting. Thank you all, and let's continue the fight.
Biden supporters here say their main focus was actually on Michigan because it had the most delegates up for grabs tonight. When NBC News called the race for Biden there, the room erupted in cheers here in Kansas City. Reporting live in Kansas City, Caroline Dade, KOMU 8 News. Tonight, 2 new presumptive positive COVID-19 cases in Missouri, and Governor Parson has declared a state of emergency. President Trump declared a state of emergency for the country earlier today. Good evening, I'm Caroline Dade. 3 Fulton Middle School students are hoping to make an impact with their writing. They're getting offers to have their work published, even winning awards. KOMU 8's Grace Taylor is here in the studio with what the students say is their motivation. It's Christmas Eve, which hopefully means you finished your Christmas shopping, but some people waited until today to hit the stores. KOMU 8's Amber Robb shows us how one mom who saves her shopping until today was hustling to get those final gifts. Happening right now, the Senate just rejected calling witnesses in President Trump's impeachment trial, pushing the Republican-controlled Senate one step closer to acquitting him. This news came down just about 10 minutes ago. Here's a look at what we're following for KOMU 8 News at 10. True False Film Festival is here in mid-Missouri, and people are coming from all across the country. We'll tell you how that affects our local businesses. In your consumer news, Facebook has quietly released a new app that looks a lot like Pinterest. Here's what's happening right now. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo says he will not run for the U.S. Senate seat in Kansas. The deadline to run for the open seat has not passed yet, but Pompeo told Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell not to wait for him and assume he's not running. Now, many of us can only dream of buying a Ferrari, but only a select group gets the privilege of buying a fully customized one. CNBC's Robert Frank has a look at what's becoming big business for the Italian car maker. Coming up, it shook the windows at my house. We'll have an update on the loud noise many of you heard all across mid-Missouri earlier this afternoon.